all of our businesses are going to be more connected than they ever have before. They're all relying on mobile devices to help us, whether it is we're checking out at retail, whether it is, we're doing, again, inventory or warehouse management. All of that has to work more seamlessly than it ever has before. And if your company's going to succeed, you have to be doing that really well.
The Industrial Sage Executive Series, sharing the stories behind game-changing executives, their organizations, and insights into today's industry challenges.
Hello and welcome to today's Industrial Sage Executive Series interview. I'm joined by Joe Yanaska, who is the Chief Information Officer at TRG Solutions. Joe, thank you so much for joining me today on the Executive Series.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
I am very excited to jump into today's episode and learn a little bit more about you and about TRG Solutions. So first off, tell me a little bit about TRG. Who are you guys? What do you guys do?
Well, we're a managed service provider in the sort of enterprise mobility and payment space. So really the easiest way to think about us is if it scans a barcode, we can help you figure out what devices are right for you. We can help you source them and deploy them out to all of your locations. And then while they're in the field, if they experience a need for repair, you can ship them back, we can repair them. And then certainly at the end of that life cycle, if they need to be securely destroyed or whatever, we can help you with that as well. And then certainly if you want to replace them, we will help you do the whole cycle all over again. So really being experts in that space and trying to help our customers use these however they need to, whether it be warehouse management, point of sale, whatever. We're there to show you what devices work best in your environment and then can help you manage that entire life cycle.
Great, awesome. So before we get more into the business and challenges and all that stuff, this is a special segment where I like to kind of go in and learn about my guest on the show. So Joe, tell me a little bit about how did you get into the industry?
Well, for me, I started from the technology standpoint. So, I kind of went to college to be a developer, right? An engineer, software engineer, and, spent some time at KeyBank out of the gate. And then my second stop was at American Greetings, where, we spent a lot of time trying to save the world one greeting card at a time. And one of the interesting things we got into there was personalized greeting cards. And so we really started to figure out the logistics of, obviously taking something online, personalizing the card, but once you've taken that order, you've got to print it, you've got to kit it, you've got to ship it, and hopefully that it's all right. And, if you think about really like Christmas time, you might be shipping out, hundreds of cards to somebody or shipping them to everybody on their list on their behalf. So there was an operation there to sort of figure out how all that worked. And then that sort of dovetailed into my time here at TRG Solutions, where we really help people in those areas, especially around, any of the mobile devices that are required to help any of their supply chain needs, from, again, warehouse management to shipping to retail. You have all these touch points that need to happen along that way. And really, these are the devices that are helping you, collect that information, get it into your, ERP systems. So, companies can manage, their data, their inventory, all that stuff as seamlessly as possible.
So you meant, specifically like maybe some sort of like RFID scanning. You said anything that basically has a barcode, essentially.
Barcode, RFID, anything that you're able sort of, helps you, figure out whether it's a product, whether it's luggage from an airline, whether it's whatever, it's got a barcode on it. And usually you want to know where that is all along the way. And it's these handheld mobile devices that people, their employees have in their hands scanning these barcoding, and it's usually updating an ERP system to let them know, hey, this is where it is in its process. And that's where we're really helping companies, with that technology to make it as seamless and as easy as possible.
Excellent. Well, so, but kind of going back a little bit, I'm going to take you back again.
Sure.
how you said you wanted to be program engineering. Is that what you were
Yeah,
studying?
software developer, software engineer.
So what, I mean, it sounds like you're kind of still in, very much in that space a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a CIO here, which means I handle all of the technology needs of our company. I kind of call myself the head nerd because and I say that very proudly.
That's good.
Because it's the systems that we put in place that help run our business, that help us help our customers run their businesses much more effectively.
Yeah. So, kind of in your career, one of my favorite questions to ask executives is, hey, tell me about somebody who really had a big impact in your life, whether, professionally primarily, but it could be, personally as well. Who is that for you and why?
Yeah, so for me, it certainly was a former CIO who I reported into. It was actually my time at American Greetings. And, one of the things that I really prided myself early in my career is being a really good software engineer. And not only was I doing that, but I was starting to lead software engineering teams. But that was my silo, right? So that's what I was getting really good at. And I remember, I always remember this day where I walked into his office and he's like, Joe, I want you to take over QA. Now, QA in the software development is you write the code, you send it over to the QA team, they test it. And then there's always a little contention in that world because they're finding stuff that's wrong with your code. And I certainly didn't want to do that because I was a developer, right? I was on this side of the wall. And, what he did is he saw something in me where I could come in and maybe make something better, maybe something I didn't see in myself. And so I ended up taking the challenge on, and that's when I really saw my management career take off, and that I could take on things that weren't like what I went to school for, right? And the phrase he always used to use with me was, you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I still use that phrase today. I teach it to all my, all the people that report into me, because I think there's something to be said there where when you're given a new opportunity, there's a confidence over time that you may develop to say, I can go into that situation. I can learn about what it is that I need to learn about, and I can start to manage that in a way that is maybe better than before, right? And it may not be in an area that you were absolutely trained on. Now, that doesn't mean you don't need to go get training, or you don't need to go get a lot of books and start to study in the area. But what you do is you develop a confidence that you can go into that situation, you can educate yourself enough, and then you can start to manage and operate that function in the business in a very effective way. And he was the guy that sort of introduced me to that term and then started giving me other opportunities, right? QA was one of the first ones. Then I got the call center, which was really outside my, sort of area of expertise, but you had to learn about that. And that's where it really helped me grow as a manager, and then really set me up for higher and sort of jobs up the chain, right? So, I sit here today with a CIO title. I would never have been able to have that if it wasn't for him.
That's awesome. I absolutely love that mantra of being comfortable being uncomfortable. I love that. Actually, it's like the third time it's come up in this very short week already. It came up on Sunday, it came up yesterday, it came up now again. I absolutely love it. It's super catchy, but it's also not just catchy, the meaning of it. It's everybody has fear, and it's what do you do with that fear? And do you go through it? Because the opposite is being complacent. And if you're complacent, you don't grow.
Absolutely. I mean, when I'm coaching some of my staff up, and you sometimes you can see those nonverbal cues where they're uncomfortable, and I'll ask them, "Are you uncomfortable?" And they'll say, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm good. You're growing, right? You're now going to go learn a skill set that you didn't have last week, and that's going to help you in your career, right?" And so those are things to be embraced and not be feared, right?
That's awesome. No, I absolutely love it. That is 100% love it. So, today you got the title, right? You got the CIO title. What energizes you? Like, you wake up in the morning, whatever. Hey, here's what I want to go tackle. Like, what's that thing for you?
for us, it's just constant improvement. One of the things that I absolutely love about where we are today is, that we're kind of a mid-sized company growing into a bigger company every day. And so what you're constantly looking at, especially in the CIO seat, is do the systems, do the processes, do the people scale the way you need them to scale? And so, and in a lot of cases where, you go from startup, there's a certain mentality in a startup company to a mid-sized company. And oftentimes the things that got you where you were don't get you where you need to be. And so you got to think about things more strategically. You got to think about systematizing some of your processes and procedures. Things that you could do on a spreadsheet now are too big for a spreadsheet, and you need a system to manage it. So it's really coming in and working with our operations team, one, on how do we make our operations much more efficient and scalable. Those are the two key words. And also throw secure in there as well, because
that's a big one.
We would be remiss if we didn't, because those come with growth. And then the other side is, how do you work with your sales and product teams to make sure that the things that we're putting into the system are things that maybe we could take to market and sell and show that we're doing this and it's a differentiator for us. So when we're in that sales cycle and we're up against competition, we shine in that area, and people want to bring their enterprise mobility business to us as opposed to one of our competitors.
That's awesome. No, I love it. That's great. Looking now with everything that's going on sort of in the industry, pandemic and all that fun stuff. How has the industry sort of changed for you guys?
I think for us, and this is in helping our customers, that our customers need to be much more transparent with their data than they ever have before, whether that is forecasting, whether that's inventory management, whether that is putting in digital displays at retail. All of that requires systems. It requires people to help them service some of those things. It had sometimes help. They're putting new systems in, and it requires us to come in and help with some expertise on what systems they should buy or what kind of devices they should buy. And a lot of it depends, is like, are you working in a warehouse that is basically a big freezer and is like -20 all the time? Well, there's a different type of device that will help you there, right? Are you working like in an airport, like we talked about, where the weather is going to be changing on a dime, and in some cases, the device you might send to Minneapolis might be different than the device you send to Arizona, because it's different weather conditions all the time. So those are the things that our customers are constantly dealing with. And we're able to come in and help them figure out what's the best way that they can, service their customers or implement new devices or technology that helps them be more efficient, and helps us bring value to their organization when we do that.
Absolutely. It was interesting. It's probably the first answer that I've heard about, the transparency relative. I think that's a great answer. And it sounds like it's just sort of across the board relative to suppliers, stakeholders, obviously customers, or end customers, just across the whole sort of playing field.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at retail now, it's like, think of all the things that they have to know inventory wise, right? When you expect to open up an app and know in the store that is 3 miles from you what they have on the shelf, because you want to know they have it before you make that trip, right? And like, that takes a lot of systems, a lot of inventory, to make all of that work seamlessly. And that's not going to change, right? And that's one of the things, the pandemic really, accelerated, because now all of a sudden you went from, a scenario where, you were doing stuff on Amazon and you were going to buy stuff in a store. But now all of a sudden, the pick and go stuff is now big. And all of that requires, what your inventory is, what the prices are, and you're making that available to your consumer base, right? Which you never really did before, right? Or maybe it's not at the store and it's a warehouse, and you want to give that customer a chance to say, okay, I can't get it at the store, but we'll send it to you in 2 or 3 days, right? You're also starting to see that happen actually in retail. I was in a local sporting goods store, not too long ago, and I was buying a new pair of running shoes, and they didn't have my size. And literally the guy was able to say, with his mobile device right there, says, yeah, I don't have it here, but I can have it shipped to your house in 3 days. Do you still want them? Right.
Oh, that's
so he might have saved a sale by doing that.
Absolutely.
But again, required, having that device, being it located to your inventory, having somebody at the other end checking in that device and knowing what you had on the shelf. And all of that requires all of this enterprise mobility technology to make that work really well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great story there. Actually, I had a similar story, opposite. I won't name who, but went in, bought something online, got in there, they didn't have it. Big spike. It was Atlanta Braves, World Series gear. So I'll give them a pass. It was kind of like everybody was rushing to the stores immediately. So anyway,
sure.
They told me they're getting out here as fast as they're printing these shirts as fast as they can. They're coming by the truckload. So very exciting time. But yeah. So where do you see things going? Obviously, there's a lot of learnings that I'm sure that you've taken from the pandemic. Where do you see things as things start to settle and going forward a little bit? Where do you see areas maybe coming back or staying? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I certainly don't think any of the things that we introduced in the pandemic are going to go away. Now, they'll certainly probably level, because you're going to have some people who like going back to the store because they like that, that browsing experience where they're seeing physical things. But your curbside pickup is going to stay. If you're a restaurant and you're not doing curbside pickup, or you're not doing, think of DoorDash and, Uber Eats and all that stuff, you're not doing those things, you're losing revenue. So all of our businesses are going to be more connected than they ever have before. They're all relying on mobile devices to help us, whether it is we're checking out at retail, whether it is, we're doing, again, inventory or warehouse management. All of that has to work more seamlessly than it ever has before. And if your company's going to succeed, you have to be doing that really well.
Absolutely.
And I don't see that. I see that only increasing and not decreasing and going back to pre-pandemic scenarios.
No, totally. I agree. I mean, I think people have just from a consumer standpoint, I can tell you it's been fantastic. And if you ask my wife, she's like, "Oh, this is awesome." I want to go in the grocery store. I can just go around. People bring stuff, put it into my my trunk, and it's great. Or it's being shipped to the house or what have you. I mean, I think if one thing that we've learned as well is just the value of time. And I think not that we didn't know that before, right? But when you think of the traditional experience of just going grocery shopping and how much time it takes to do, all these different things, you're like, wait a minute, I could just quickly on my app, and even if there's stuff that I repurchase that maybe I wouldn't get through an Amazon or wherever else, right? I can quickly just boop, that's it. Here's my list, go, and it's I just carved out 45 minutes or whatever out of my day.
Yep, it happens. I mean, my wife and I, we got Instacart right when we joined, and like we were driving back, we were on a trip, and we realized we hadn't done any grocery shopping for the week, and we're driving back from where we were at on a Sunday, and we had an hour and a half ahead, and she pulled open the app, and within a half hour we had our grocery shopping done. It was going to be delivered right around the same time that we showed up. So, and we get there, the bags are on the door, and away we go.
That has revolutionized our family vacations. I can tell you, it's like you go somewhere. I mean, we went to the beach, whatever. Boom, same thing. You're like, hey, this is awesome. Like, I don't have to worry about all this other stuff. So yeah, that's not going back. No, at least I hope it isn't. I'll be mad. So what is your organization doing right now to really stay ahead of your peers?
I think for us, and this is constant, it's an investment in our people, our services, and our systems, right, to stay ahead, right? People to make sure that, we have the right people to help our customers come in, have those good technical conversations, and to help hopefully not be a vendor when we come in, and hopefully be a trusted advisor. right? When we come in to sort of help them think about what technology they should be implementing and how it can help them and drive, the business outcomes that they want to have, right? We then also internally need to invest in our own systems. So like when we give services like repairs and all that stuff, we're doing that as efficiently as possible and transparently as possible for our customers so they can see where their devices under management are, right? Because that's part of the services that we offer, right? And then, so it's people, that's systems, and then services. So we're also constantly thinking about where our customers need new services that can help them. Like, so one of the things that we have launched this year is actually security service, right? To be able to monitor your networks, because we can certainly come in and help you set up networks, set up mobile devices and all that stuff. But now somebody needs to monitor them for, security purposes. Certainly if a company has any sort of, SOC or sort of requirements that they have to meet, that's an important thing. So we can now, throw that service on top, so we can really become a one-stop shop as much as we can for our consumers. Like, we have a tagline here where we try to make technology simple, right? And I'm sure a lot of companies say that, but in this space, what we want to be able to do is come in, help your decision making, and then once you've made the decision, hopefully we can then provide the services to manage the devices that you're buying, to manage the networks maybe that you're putting in, and do that in a secure manner. And if we do that well, you're going to do more business with us, right? So, we constantly strive to be that trusted advisor as opposed to just a vendor.
Well, it sounds like it. I like how you're thinking, in the different dimensions, and certainly bringing, that consultative solution standpoint, bringing in those, you mentioned, security being, that's actually kind of that's a huge topic right now, right? With cyber,
Sure.
Especially as we move into more digital transformation, and you're seeing all these issues, and it's an important thing. So,
without a doubt, if you're not looking at security, you're behind the curve, right? Because that activity is only increasing and will continue to increase. So like the things and solutions we have to put in place, need to have that. And if, you're a CIO and you have security rolling up to you, I mean, that's certainly something that's going to keep you up at night. And, hopefully we can provide some services to help you sleep better, right?
Yeah, that's a good benefit, good tagline there, for sure. So, talking about really staying, we talked about how your organization is, sort of staying ahead of your peers. I kind of want to pivot to you a little bit. A lot of leaders like reading books, and whether it's, fiction or nonfiction, or better, you got are you a book reader? Reading any good books?
I used to be a really good book reader until Audible came out.
Okay.
So now I'm a big book listener. But yeah, there are two books that I've just gotten through, and I thought they were both really good. One is the more classic, and it's called "A Ride of a Lifetime" by Robert Iger. He was the CEO of Disney.
Yeah.
So it basically looks at his career, but a lot of interesting stuff in there in terms of, how do you navigate company politics in a big company. He took you through some of the deals that he made with Marvel and Lucasfilms and Pixar, which were absolutely fascinating to read, because I think everybody knows of those deals, right? And so it's really nice to see a little behind the scenes. And, obviously somebody that was operating at a really high level had a really good run there. So that's one. And then one sort of off the beaten one, it's called Captain's Class. So it's a guy who looked at and he did a lot of math to figure this out, but like the 10 most best teams, dynasty teams in the history of sports, right? And he looked at basketball, rugby, he had all sorts of things. And really what he was trying to figure out is what made those teams great. Like, was it a good coach? Was it an elite player? And what he found out is really the factor was, it was a team captain or a sort of guy on the team who maybe wasn't the superstar, but kept that team together. And he tells stories on all the teams. I found that book really fascinating, because if you're doing anything in corporate America, you have to be doing it with teams. And so I think it's always good to know what make teams tick, and then what kind of people you need to put on those teams to really not just make them tick, but perform really, really well, right? Because that's what you're going for.
That's fantastic.
I found that to be a really interesting read.
Oh, that's great. So, all right, so what are I'm going to write those down. What are those again? The one,
I think
Bob
the
Iger
first one is Ride of a Lifetime.
Ride of a Lifetime. Okay.
Yep. And the second one is Captain's Class.
Captains. All right, cool. That sounds fantastic. I actually haven't finished it, but it was Be Our Guest. I think about Disney, about all the customer service and just the systems and what they've got. Fantastic. But yeah, that sounds super fascinating. So
it was, especially if you're, a higher level executive, you'll relate to a lot of the situations in the first book, because you're like, yeah, I definitely encountered that situation. Then it was interesting to see how he navigated it. Right. And, certainly like when, there's a point where he was the chief operating officer and, went to be CEO, how did he make that transition? Right. And he did it in a weird way where the guy who was leaving maybe wasn't so popular. Right. And so, he had to detach himself a little bit from that, but not insult it in the same way. Right. So he had a very fine line to walk, and it's really interesting to see how, from his perspective, he walked it, and how he really threaded the needle there, and then went on to be a very successful, CEO of that company for for over 10 years.
Yeah, it was a very good run. No, that's super fascinating. We're going to need to we haven't done this in the past, but we totally should. I think we have to put Amazon links or whatever in the show notes. People can go get these books, because I'm certainly going to have to go get that. But Joe, listen, I've really appreciated just you spending some time with me and with our audience, and I've just a lot of great, valuable insights, and just I have a lot of notes here I took.
That's great.
But thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the time to come and talk to you. And, I hope, this interview gets shown to a lot of people, right?
Oh, it will be, and so for those who are interested, who want to learn more about you guys, they can go to trgsolutions.com.
That is correct.
Got that correct? All right, great. Joe, again, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and that wraps up today's Industrial Sage Executive Series with Joe Yanoska. He is the CIO, Chief Information Officer at trgsolutions.com, or TRG Solutions. The website is trgsolutions.com. Go check them out. They've got some great technology. I love hearing about just how they're really tackling a lot of these challenges. I love how they were talking about they're solving this transparency challenge that their customers are having all across the entire sort of life cycle there, whether it's end user, customer, to operationally. I think it's fascinating. So go check them out. And if you are not on our email list, I highly recommend, if you're listening on the podcast, or if you're maybe on social, go to industrialsage.com, get on our email list, because we're missing out on great content like this, great episodes. So go do that. That's it. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back next week with another episode on Industrial Sage.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Get notified every time there's a new episode by signing up for our email newsletters. You can also subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And while you're there, please leave us a review so more industrial professionals can find us. Want us to tell your story? Go to industrialsage.com. This week's episode was produced by Rika Wiersma, filmed and edited by Optimum Productions, and our executive producer is Danny Gonzalez. Thank you for watching Industrial Sage.